Episode 2, the one with Bug Boy. Okay, so just like a side note, I went looking for this meme, it's lots of different, it's just this concept that it shows up in different kinds of memes, but it's the idea of how a woman judges whether or not a man's advances are flirty or creepy is not based on what he is objectively doing or saying, and it's not based on what his intentions are. It's solely based on how attractive she finds him. So if she finds the man attractive, then it's flirting. But if she finds him unattractive, then it's creepy, harassment, that sort of thing. I just want to point out that Clark is basically Bug Boy in this episode. They both spy on Lana secretly from a distance, and they both leave her presents and then watch her open them from the bushes. But when Clark does it, it's cute and sweet, and when Bug Boy does it, it's creepy. I think they're both creepy. Whatever, I digress.
What is this about? Midway through this episode, Lex Luthor shows up to the barn. Now, I would defend Lex and say, hey, he's looking out for his best friend, but he's kind of lurking. He just shows up. He's a little older. He's kind of giving her this look. I mean, do we think that he likes her then? I think it's not, he doesn't have ulterior motives. I think he's trying to help Clark. What did you gather, Ryan?
Oh, you did a lot of lurking in this episode.
A lot of lurking.
It was creepy.
Was it kind of creepy?
It was a little creepy.
Yeah.
No, it is not creepy. It actually makes perfect sense, okay? So remember the connection that Lex has to Lana and her family, okay? First of all, in the very last episode, the pilot episode, Lana is talking to Whitney. Lana tells Whitney that her aunt is at the Luthor mansion because she's been selling land to Lex Luthor. She sold him a lot of land. They do business together. They've been doing business together. Lex knows her aunt well. He's heard a lot about Lana. We then find out in this episode, when Lana tells Lex how she met him the first time, that their families have actually been connected for years. Sounds like both Lex and Lana were at a riding competition. Presumably they were both in the competition. Lex obviously demonstrates a knowledge of horses, a knowledge of gait, and a knowledge of horseback riding. He says something about her form being good, but the gait being off. Okay, so he knows horses. We also find out in the episode where he briefly lives with the Kens, he gets kicked out of the mansion. He's worked around horses. He's worked in a stable. So I'm guessing what happened there is they were in Metropolis and both of them were in the riding competition, Lana and Lex, when they were kids. And then Lana says that Lionel invited Nell and her to stay over at their house, and that's where she encountered Lex skinny dipping with the other girl. So they've been connected to this family for a long time, but he says he doesn't remember meeting her. So he's probably heard a lot about Lana over the years and has never actually met her. Then he shows up at Lana's house to talk to Nell. Nell's not there. And he sees Lana out riding the horse and he's thinking, I'm going to meet Lana. I think that is a very natural curiosity and I don't think it's creepy at all. And remember too, as she approaches the stable then where he's waiting, not lurking, just waiting, watching the horses. I don't know, maybe he's petting the horses. Social pariahs oftentimes find that animals are a comfort. I'm just saying. But as she rides up, he would recognize her face from the farmer's market where he learned that, oh, wow, that's the girl Clark likes. That's Lana. Clark is interested in this girl that's been connected to my family for years. That's interesting. He introduces himself as a friend of her aunt's, and when he leaves, he tells Lana to let her aunt know that he stopped by. So it seems obvious to me he was there to see Nell. It was just incidental he decided to stay and meet Lana. And I'm sure he's glad he did because he ends up finding out a bunch of interesting information. He finds out that who he recognizes now that Clark is interested in Lana. That's Nell's adopted daughter. Oh, that's the other thing that they have in common. Lana was adopted by Nell when her parents died in the meteor shower, which means she also had a very traumatic experience of the meteor shower that Lex was also in. They were both in Smallville at the same time then. So that's another connection that they have. Anyways, he finds out that the necklace that was tied around Clark's neck in the cornfield is Lana's necklace. She gave it to her boyfriend. He finds out that her boyfriend is Whitney, the same Whitney that Clark saved earlier that day, and the same Whitney that strung him up in the cornfield the night before, whenever that was. So there are a lot of puzzle pieces clicking into place right now in this scene for Lex. And for you, the viewer, if you're paying attention. I don't think Lex is romantically interested in Lana at all at this point. I think he's interested in her for all the reasons I just described. I think he's also trying to look out for her genuinely because he recognizes that the boyfriend she's with is a bully and from as far as Lex would know, kind of a serious one. Remember he said something to Clark earlier about how he could have died out there in the cornfield? That makes him a dangerous boyfriend, okay? Even potentially a threat to Lana. So he knows the guy's a jerk and he's potentially dangerous. Lex is just looking out for her. So he ends up helping Clark, trying to help Clark pursue Lana and encourages him. I personally think this is sincere, but I think it's multi-layered. You got to remember, high IQ people can have like 5 trains of thought going at the same time, and they may or may not be connected trains of thought, and they can still keep them straight and pay attention to new thoughts joining into these trains of thought. So there's more than one thing going on. So yes, I think he genuinely wants to help Clark out with his girl situation because he feels kind of like a big brother, or he likes filling that role for him. I also think he wants to help, at least generally wants to help Lana not end up with a jerk. And he doesn't know yet that Clark is also a jerk. He's just, we'll get to that later, but he still has Clark up a kind of a pedestal. He thinks he's a lot better and cooler than he really is. Honestly, he probably feels pretty protective of Lana too, given the connection that their families have had over years, we find out. And lastly, I think he's extremely curious about this green kryptonite necklace and what will happen when Clark gives it back to her. So there's that scene. They talked about this on the podcast, the TalkVille podcast too. He gives it to him in this box. But he gives it to him because it's made from the armor of St. George, supposedly, the patron saint of Boy Scouts. The patron saint of Boy Scouts, so he gives it to Clark, the Boy Scout. Or he thinks he's a Boy Scout. He's not. He's a creep. But he thinks he's a Boy Scout. So he gives him that with the necklace inside. And yes, he watches very closely. This whole thing, did Lex figure out whether or not, did Lex figure out what the green meteor rock was doing to Clark in this episode? Yes, he did! Guys, remember, this is the second time he's encountered this now. Remember, we know watching the series, Lex is very curious. He pursues truth. He wants to understand things that happened. Do you really think that what happened to him in the meteor shower was something he never bothered to investigate until he came back to Smallville? I guarantee you, he has researched the meteors. He has researched the meteor rocks. His dad has a factory there. He's probably been there before, even if he ever didn't actually work there or anything. I guarantee you, before he showed up in Smallville to take over that factory, he researched Smallville. He probably knows all about the meteor freaks. We find out later he reads the torch, so he sees what Chloe's posting too. He knows about the meteor freaks already. He knows there's been weird things that have happened because of the meteors. And then he finds Clark tied up in a cornfield with this little green rock around his neck. He knows the meteors are green. He can see Clark is hanging there like it's weighting him down. And then he pulls him down, and you see there's a scene. You should go back and watch it. There's a scene where Clark, the necklace falls off of him, and then Clark just zips back up like he's totally fine. And then as he gets to his feet, you see Lex behind him just watching. Lex is just sitting there watching the effect the meteor rock falling off of him had. And then he's like, "You look like you were half dead." And then Clark just jumps up and then runs away like he's totally fine. And Lex even says something like, "You got to go to the hospital." And Clark goes, "No, I'm fine." And he just runs off like he's totally fine. Lex is watching all this. And then he looks down and, that's funny. The necklace isn't on him anymore. And now he's totally fine. Thinking, see the wheels turning in Lex's head. So then he experiments a little bit, gives him the meteor rock necklace in a box, to protect him. And he sees right away it's affecting Clark. Clark literally takes a step back. He starts acting uncomfortable and he steps backwards, and then he acts reluctant to take it. Yes, I don't know how anyone could conclude otherwise than that Lex figured out, oh wow, this is having a serious effect on Clark. Now, does he know everything? No, but he knows some things. He's noting these things. He's paying attention, logging that info away for later. So, another interesting parallel that I notice upon rewatching between Lex and Lana. Lana is also someone who knows more than she lets on. You can tell. She's paying attention. She notices things, but she doesn't always react, just like Lex doesn't always react. But you can see. You can see that they're noticing things and they're paying attention. And in the combination of the acting, script writing, and directing, she knows. So, for example, episode 2, she finds out Clark has been spying on her. She knows. You see, she goes into his barn while he's not there, and he has the thing set up pointed at her house, okay? She goes over and looks into it, sees that, oh wow, he's got a telescope set up pointing directly at my house. And then when he shows up, she does exactly the kind of thing Lex would do. She just makes sort of an offhanded comment. She doesn't go directly and say, "Have you been spying on me?" She goes, "Did you know this can see all the way to my house?" And then Clark acts like, "What? Really?" He just lies to her. So now Lana's like, okay, so he's willing to lie about that. Noted. She doesn't react, but she notes that he lied to her about that. And then Clark goes over there and just grabs it and moves it self-consciously. It's anyways, just an interesting thing. Just like Lex, Lana notices things, logs the info away for later, but doesn't always respond to it immediately. She doesn't always react. She doesn't always let on that she knows, but she notices. Lana, the first time I watched the series, and again, this was like 2 months ago for me. The first time I watched this series, I thought Lana was really boring. Not gonna lie. And I feel like she didn't seem like that great of a character at the beginning. I felt like she made stupid choices. She didn't treat people right. She kind of played both sides of, Whitney and Clark kind of thing. Like, she's a little bit, but later as the series progresses, and then again, as I'm rewatching it, I'm realizing Lana is, like, I'm okay with that Lana ended up with Lex in the end of it. I think it made sense. I think it fit the arc. Obviously, that's not happening yet, but this is like foundational pieces to that. Lana's the only one, outside of maybe Lionel, honestly, it may be just Lionel and Lana, who treat Lex like he's a human being and like see him even semi-objectively. She points out to Clark that he was a good friend. She acknowledges it openly. She's not blinded by the fact that he's a Luthor. She just points out, like, he helped point me in the right direction of finding out Whitney was, did something terrible and was lying to me. And I was kind of blind to some of the stuff that was going on in front of me, and he helped me see it. He was being a good friend. And that's rare. She's right. But how many people are not willing to see those qualities in Lex because he's a Luthor? They just always assume there's some kind of an evil motive, or it's not what you think because he's a Luthor and we know they're bad. Okay. So how do we explain Lex figuring out stuff about the kryptonite, but not doing anything with this information until much, much, much later in the series? So first explanation is we're witnessing absolutely terrible, chaotic directing and acting because they're communicating one thing and it was never meant to be communicated. So if we're supposed to presume that he hasn't figured any of this out, you guys did a terrible job with acting and directing because it makes it look like he figured it out. Or he really did figure it out. There was good acting and good directing. And Lex has been demonstrating since the beginning of the series that he has been a good keeper of Clark's secret the entire time.